Hi everyone, I've just brought another video for you guys, so let's get started without further ado. Also, remember to like and comment. Tell me which manhwa you'd like me to cover next. Let's do this.
A lonely sound echoed through the dark dungeon. He was cornered and wounded, but his gaze burned with pure stubbornness. With what little strength he had left, he leaned against the cold stone floor. The young man was surrounded by monsters that seemed to have come out of a nightmare. The floor was stained with the evidence of a brutal fight. He was at his absolute limit. But then, a new shadow emerged from the darkness. However, even in the face of this new threat, his determination did not waver. A colossal serpent now towered over him, its presence crushing any hope. It all started when the world discovered the existence of mysterious relics, and people dedicated their lives to searching for them. Faced with certain death, the protagonist made a decision. The world changed overnight when strange tombs began to appear out of nowhere. These structures, from another era, guarded artifacts of immense power. The relics, as they became known, were the cause of this new and chaotic reality. They granted extraordinary abilities to ordinary people, turning some into saviors and others into tyrants. And with that, humanity launched into a desperate hunt for these treasures. Excavation teams like his risked their lives every day, but the danger was always greater than the reward. Until one day, he finally found an incredible relic. With the artifact in hand, the young man felt that his life would finally change for the better. But the world wasn't fair. Those who had accumulated power began to monopolize the relics, creating a new society with laws that benefited only themselves. Because of his exceptional skills, the protagonist was noticed by a large corporation and personally recruited by the CEO. He became a tomb raider, improving his techniques to invade restricted areas and steal the artifacts that others found. Years later, CEO Kwon became the most powerful relic user in the world, all thanks to the dirty work the protagonist did for him. Despite everything, the young man was just a tool in the hands of a dictator. Until one day, he discovered the truth. It was all a trap, planned by CEO Kwon himself. The man to whom he dedicated his life had betrayed him from the start. The trap closed, and he was left to die, attacked by a terrible creature. Fallen and seriously injured, the protagonist felt his life fading away. The creature watched him, ready for the final blow, but even on the verge of death, he did not give up. With his last strength, the young man cursed the creature and the man who betrayed him. The creature advanced to devour him. That was the end of his miserable life, or at least, that's what it seemed. Even on the verge of death, he swore that his revenge would find the man who betrayed him. The creature, indifferent to his curse, opened its mouth to deliver the final blow. But suddenly, the snake stopped. The young man was confused when he heard a voice he didn't expect. The creature mocked him, revealing that it was not the first time he had heard the voice of a relic. Even injured, the protagonist tried to bluff, demanding that the snake release him, but the creature only described the reality of his injuries. His body was torn in two, and his life hung by a thread. The truth hit him. There was no escape. The giant snake watched him, seeming to enjoy his despair. The boy gritted his teeth, frustrated with the end of his miserable life. He thought about those who had betrayed him. Anger gave him one last surge of strength, and he vowed to do anything to get revenge. Suddenly, the serpent began to glow, and the young man didn't understand what was happening. A mysterious voice then offered him a chance. The entity said it would see if, this time, he would be able to claim the king's throne. The entity's proposal echoed in his mind, and the protagonist's world fell apart. And then, he opened his eyes as if waking from a long nightmare. The first thing he noticed was that he was sitting. His body was whole. The shock was so great that he jumped to his feet. He felt his own body in disbelief. There wasn't a scratch on him. The pain was gone. Only then did he realize he wasn't alone. There were several people around, and the place looked like an office. Looking around, he realized where he was: a police station. The confusion only increased. One of the men in the office, clearly annoyed, demanded an answer from him. The man seemed to be trying to fill out some kind of record and was losing patience. The protagonist was trying to understand the fight, the brush with death. Had it all been a dream, a hallucination? Apparently, the boy's silence was testing everyone's patience in the room. But then, something caught his attention. He watched the other people at the police station, trying to find a familiar face, and that's when he recognized him. The boy in the yellow hoodie. He remembered that face. The memory hit him hard. The fight with that boy. It began to dawn on him. He wondered if it was true, if he had really gone back 15 years in time. The realization of reality hit him hard. He remembered what the world was like before, a time of peace, before the emergence of the relics. That meant that not even the divine-level relics had appeared yet. And with that realization, a dangerous idea began to form in his mind. All his memories and knowledge of the future were intact. He could use this advantage to collect the relics before everyone else. A confident smile appeared on his face. The prospect of rewriting history filled him with a dark excitement. He remembered the future he lived through. After the world was consumed by the power of the relics, the young man believed that nothing could surprise him anymore. But he was wrong. First, he never imagined that a tomb like that would exist. Second, he found out too late that his mission to that place was a trap. And finally, the memory of the betrayal brought him back to reality. A cold, determined smile took over his face. His thoughts, however, were interrupted by an angry voice. The investigator scolded him for his apparent lack of attention. The woman defended the young man in the yellow jacket, outraged by the accusation. But the protagonist remembered how it had all started 15 years ago. Back in the present, he found the woman's insistence simply irritating. In his memory, the student had provoked him first, looking for a fight. The boy in yellow, however, had planned everything, collapsing to the ground with a simple touch to fake the assault. The protagonist reflected that, although his body was stronger, it wouldn't solve his main problem. Without his tools and without money, he wondered how he would continue his excavations and collect relics. Lost in thought, he didn't notice the woman's fury at being ignored. Tired of the silence, she raised her hand to strike him. Her attitude shocked the others present in the room. Only this time, the protagonist's reaction was different. With surprising speed, he intercepted the blow before it hit him. The young man himself seemed surprised by his newfound strength and reflexes. He warned her to calm down, maintaining control of the situation. The protagonist then clarified that her son was the real culprit behind the original fight. The accusation made the boy in yellow furious, and he lunged at the protagonist. However, his attack was intercepted with impressive ease. The protagonist held the attacker's fist with a force that completely immobilized him. The young man was shocked, not understanding the huge difference in power between them. With a simple movement, the protagonist knocked him to the ground, causing immediate pain. He watched the scene with a frightening calm. The commotion finally attracted the attention of the police officers, who arrived demanding an explanation. Without flinching, the protagonist surrendered, stating that he didn't mind being arrested. His defiant attitude further enraged the boy's father, but the protagonist seemed firm in his decision, indifferent to the threats, and so he ended up behind bars, exactly as planned. Inside, he had time to reflect on future events. The young man knew that his current strength was still not enough for what was to come. A new urgency took over his thoughts. It was then that suddenly, something completely unexpected happened. Suddenly, a strange vision appeared before Seo Ju-heon. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, thinking his eyes were deceiving him. And then a message appeared, describing him as a simple pickpocket. Seo Ju-heon immediately connected the phenomenon to the relics and suspected that the crow was behind it all. The mental confusion was so great that it was as if his head was splitting in half. He finally understood that this looked like a game skill window. Annoyed, the young man tried to get rid of the windows by force, but it was completely useless. The bizarre situation was starting to make him desperate. The noise he was making ended up attracting the attention of a guard who demanded silence. It was only then that it dawned on him. Apparently, only he could see those windows. At that moment, a small insect on the cell floor caught his attention. A malicious smile appeared on his face as he realized that the new skill was identical to that of his old relic. Seo Ju-heon began to theorize that all of his previous abilities had been converted to this new system. If his theory was correct, he would no longer need to go after his old relic. This was extremely useful. However, a doubt remained. He didn't understand why the crow's relic would willingly help him, but his stay in prison didn't last long. Someone came to get him out. Outside, the young aggressor's father continued to protest, insisting that the protagonist was a delinquent. Ji-woo assured him that he would resolve the incident and told the boy not to worry. In response, Seo Ju-heon thanked him. That was Ji-woo, the man who took in the protagonist when he was an orphan. The unexpected gratitude caught him completely by surprise. Ji-woo's reaction was a laugh, finding humor in his younger brother's sudden change of attitude. The relaxed atmosphere suddenly changed. Seo Ju-heon got straight to the point, questioning whether there were any recent reports of paranormal activity or supernatural powers. Ji-woo took the question as a joke, commenting that the only powers he knew were his wife's to find his hidden money. Realizing that the subject wasn't going anywhere, he just advised the young man to go home and rest. He mentioned that, although the tombs were already appearing, they hadn't caused any major problems yet, and with that, he said goodbye. Seo Ju-heon, however, knew that this was the perfect time to act. As he walked alone, the protagonist pondered the only obstacle in his way: the lack of money. He needed funds to start his plans, but he had no idea where to get them. That's when his path was blocked by a group of men who questioned him about not working. Seo Ju-heon recognized those faces immediately. Faced with his former colleagues, Seo Ju-heon showed no fear. On the contrary, a confident smile appeared on his face. The group leader treated him with contempt, demanding a bow that he wouldn't receive. The man was an ex-gangster who, along with his sister Park Kyung-ju, ran an art gallery. But deep down, the two were still just troublemakers. Seo Ju-heon remembered how it all started. The plan was simple: work for them for a short period and then leave. But things didn't go as planned. Even doing his job correctly, he was constantly humiliated and assaulted. Back to the present, one of the henchmen confronted him, reminding him of how they controlled him in the past. But Seo Ju-heon was no longer willing to listen. The answer came in the form of a fist. The punch connected with brutal force, catching the aggressor completely by surprise. The man went down. His companions couldn't believe what they were seeing. With a frightening calm, the protagonist told them to deliver a message to the boss. In an instant, the situation reversed. Now it was Seo Ju-heon who was in control, and then he revealed what he wanted. The solution to his money problem was right in front of him. The group leader processed the demand, not believing the young man's audacity. The man's initial confusion turned into mockery. He and his henchmen began to laugh, treating the threat like a joke. The laughter, however, was short-lived. Tired of the conversation, the leader advanced with a punch, hoping to end it once and for all. The leader advanced with a punch, certain that the fight would end there. But, to his surprise, he was the one who took the first hit, quick and brutal. The man barely had time to understand what happened. Pain and confusion took over. Seo Ju-hyun didn't give him a second to recover, continuing the attack relentlessly. The group leader was completely at the mercy of the young man. The other henchmen watched, shocked by the speed and strength they didn't expect. Realizing the threat, they decided to attack all at once. It was a mistake. The first of them fell with a single punch. The second was thrown away just as easily. In a matter of seconds, everyone was on the ground. The leader, stunned, couldn't process the humiliating defeat. Seo Ju-hyun looked at them with disdain, almost disappointed by their lack of challenge. However, he felt the impact of the blows on his own body. He still wasn't strong enough. Desperate, the leader got up and pulled out a knife. The street fight was about to become something much more serious. His companion tried to warn him of the danger, but the man, blinded by rage, wouldn't listen. The deadly threat, however, didn't seem to faze Seo Ju-hyun in the slightest. Seo Ju-hyun realized that this wasn't an ordinary knife, it was a relic. Most relics attracted people by creating large tombs, but some preferred to hide secretly among humans. Blinded by rage, the attacker launched into an attack. He delivered a quick blow, aiming to end it all. But the attack was intercepted with surprising ease. Seo Ju-hyun mocked the man's audacity for pulling a knife on him. The attacker's companions watched the scene, shocked by the turn of events. With an agile movement, the protagonist disarmed the man, promising that he would take good care of the weapon. He then prepared to demonstrate the true power of that relic. At that instant, something changed in his gaze. The knife revealed its first ability, the ability to see a person's internal structure. Suddenly, the two men were hit from behind, even with Seo Ju-hyun standing in front of them. One of them looked back, confused, not understanding what had just happened. In the blink of an eye, both were neutralized. Seo Ju-hyun then realized the relic's other function. It also granted the power of possession, and its former owner had simply disappeared. With the men already on the ground, Seo Ju-hyun gave an ultimatum. Either they handed over the money or things would get much worse. One of the attackers was furious at the humiliation, but with no choice, the group leader gave in to the demand. Later, in another part of the city, an urgent phone call was taking place. A woman exploded with rage, incredulous at the excuses she was hearing. On the other end of the line, the leader of the attackers was getting scolded without anything to say. Meanwhile, Seo Ju-hyun watched the scene, satisfied with the result. The woman, exhausted, tried to understand the extent of the damage. The man panicked at having to explain the situation. Back in the alley, Seo Ju-hyun counted the money and wasn't impressed at all. He doubted that was all they had. The group leader didn't understand the question, but his companions panicked, realizing they had been discovered. It was then that Seo Ju-hyun revealed what they were hiding, an item that looked extremely valuable. The men begged him not to take it. Too late. With a victorious smile, he decided he would keep the object. The group was left behind, begging and cursing Seo Ju-hyun's name. But he didn't listen, simply walking away without looking back. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a call was made with an expression of pure irritation. On the other end of the line, one of the men that Ju-hyun had left behind answered, completely confused. He barely had time to understand what was happening before being greeted by a fury of screams and insults. Far from there, Seo Ju-hyun arrived at his destination, an antique shop. He presented the Buddha statue he had obtained, but the shop owner's offer was disappointing. The shopkeeper insisted that the item had no value at all, but Ju-hyun felt that there was something wrong with that assessment. He pondered for a moment. The desperate reaction of the former owners did not match a worthless object. Decided, He left the store without selling the statue. In an alley, he stopped to examine the item once more, beginning to doubt his own judgment. It was then that, while holding the statue, a strange energy began to emanate from his hand. Suddenly, a system window appeared in front of him, activated by contact with the object. The message was clear. His espionage skill detected a suspicious essence coming from inside the statue. Seo Ju-hyun finally understood. There was something hidden inside. Seo Ju-hyun's suspicion was confirmed. There was something loose inside the statue. With a confident smile, he decided it was time to see what was hidden there. Without hesitation, he broke the object into pieces, revealing its contents. A small plastic vial rolled on the ground. The protagonist picked it up, realizing it was some kind of liquid drug. He looked to the side thoughtfully. That young man watching him from afar seemed suspicious. Seo Ju-hyun began to connect the dots. He figured all the other works of art might contain the same type of contraband. With a plan in mind, he made a call. The reward for reporting the trafficking would be a fortune. At nightfall, the operation was already underway. The target was a specific art gallery. Meanwhile, a woman answered a call, trying to appease her boss with flimsy excuses, but the conversation didn't end well, and she received an angry scolding on the other end of the line. After hanging up, she apologized to a man who was watching her, promising that she would get in touch again. Alone, the woman exploded with rage, indignant at the accusation that she was trying to steal the money for herself. She looked at her cell phone, frustrated with the situation spiraling out of her control. The woman was shocked to see her men being brought in handcuffed. The henchmen realized it was the end of the line. They had been discovered. She couldn't understand what was happening there. The detective confronted her with the accusation of trafficking. The woman denied everything, stating that her business was legitimate and that they were law-abiding citizens. But the investigator had evidence in hand. He pressed her, stating that he knew there was more merchandise hidden in her warehouses. The woman was furious. In her mind, she felt safe, remembering that all the warehouses were protected by passwords. She tried to bluff, denying knowledge of anything and demanding concrete evidence. The woman lost her patience, shouting that they had no right to meddle in her affairs. Only, at that exact moment, a confirmation arrived over the radio. The police had found drugs in all the works of art. Reality hit her when the handcuffs were placed on her wrists. She shouted that it was impossible, as no one could have opened the warehouses. The detective just smiled. He had a trick up his sleeve. He revealed that they were lucky to have the help of someone from the inside. One of the officers approached Seo Ju-hyun, impressed with the young man's skill. They didn't understand how the guy could open all the locked doors so easily. Seo Ju-hyun responded with an air of superiority, attributing his feat to simple good memory. His mind, however, flashed back to a specific moment in the past. At the time, he didn't find the task suspicious, but something began to bother him, and it was that memory that he used to his advantage. Everything was going exactly as he had planned. The satisfaction of seeing his plan come to fruition was evident. The officer thanked the young man for his great help in the operation. Seo Ju-hyun responded with an innocent smile, as if he were just a helpful student. The conversation, however, took a turn that left both officers completely confused. While the boss was being detained, one of her henchmen received a call and was shocked to learn who was on the line. Surprise took over his face. Obeying an order, the man interrupted the arrest to pass the call to his boss. He held out the cell phone to the woman, who stared at it with pure hatred. Upon hearing the voice on the other end, her expression changed completely. The woman finally understood who was behind it all and exploded in fury. On the other end of the line, Seo Ju-hyun savored his small victory with a satisfied smile. The woman could hardly believe what she was hearing, overcome with shock and fury. Powerless, she was taken away by the authorities, shouting curses against Ju Haeon. With the problem solved, the young man felt immense relief. Suddenly, a new message arrived on his cell phone. It was from Gyeon Woo-hyung. He congratulated him on the job and informed him that a reward of 100 million won was on its way. Ju Haeon gave a slight smile, amused by his friend's concern. Now, with the initial funds secured, he could finally start looking for the tombs. His goal was clear: to find the relics before his great rival, Kwon Tae-jun. But as he approached home, something felt very wrong. He stopped, trying to understand what he was seeing. The place where his house should be had simply disappeared. In its place, a gigantic tomb had sprung up, covering the entire area. Around, chaos broke out among the residents, who argued in panic. The authorities tried to contain the crowd, but the despair was widespread. Amid the chaos, one of the residents snapped, questioning how anyone could remain calm in that situation. But while everyone panicked, Seo Ju-hyun moved with a single goal in mind. He couldn't allow someone else to take the relic from that tomb. A memory surfaced, a phone call from his roommate saying that their apartment had disappeared. At that time, when he finally returned home, everything seemed to have returned to normal. Only now, the protagonist finally understood what had really happened. Someone had already defeated that tomb in the past. The crowd continued to panic, unaware of the truth that Ju Haeon had just discovered. The protagonist watched the scene unfold, his expression serious in the face of the escalating tension. Suddenly, a desperate civilian tried to take the weapon from one of the soldiers. The soldier reacted with fury, pointing the rifle directly at the man. But before he could shoot, Ju Haeon acted in the blink of an eye. With the soldier on the ground, the protagonist reprimanded him for daring to point a gun at a civilian. He then turned to the man he had saved, greeting him like an old acquaintance and leaving him completely confused. While the soldier recovered from the blow, Ju Haeon watched him impatiently. The young man approached to interrogate the soldier, wanting to know the reason for their presence there. Ju Haeon continued to interrogate the soldier, who was trying to explain himself, visibly nervous. The protagonist then went straight to the point, asking if they were planning to enter the tomb, which made the soldier even more cornered. The excuse that the information was confidential did not convince Ju Haeon. He insisted, reminding the soldier that, as a resident, he had the right to know what was happening. To increase the pressure, Ju Haeon reminded him of the serious mistake he had made in pointing a gun at a civilian. The veiled threat worked, and fear took over the young soldier. Without an alternative, the soldier gave in and revealed the plan. They intended to blow up the tomb to get what was inside. The information caught Ju Haeon by surprise. While he processed the absurdity of that plan, the soldier tried to justify the operation. Suddenly, the protagonist completely changed his attitude, thanking the soldier with a smile and pretending to feel safer with the explanation. He said goodbye amicably and simply turned to leave, leaving the soldier behind. The man who was watching the scene approached, commenting on Ju Haeon's strange behavior. He was completely confused by the protagonist's sudden change, but Ju Haeon ignored him and continued on his way, having already gotten the information he wanted. The man was left behind, not understanding anything he had just witnessed. Meanwhile, the tomb stood over the city, and a disastrous plan was about to be put into practice. Near the tomb, soldiers stood guard while a woman watched the movement. She was Linda Walker, an agent of the American CIA, and she was on a call to get an update on the situation. The agent questioned the need for so many soldiers on site. On the other end of the line, it was explained that they were there to help with her operation. As she walked, Linda received confirmation that the explosives would be detonated soon. With the call ended, she seemed satisfied with the progress of the plan. However, her confidence was shaken by a sudden appearance. Abe Kiyoshi from the Japanese excavation team greeted her with an air of superiority, questioning her surprise. He provoked the agent, suggesting that her presence there was much stranger than his. Linda was visibly annoyed by the accusation that her team was there to steal. She defended herself, stating that they represented an international police association. But Abe Kiyoshi didn't seem at all convinced by her justification. With a sweeping gesture, he assured her that, in the end, the relic would belong to his team. What the two didn't know was that Seo Joo-hyun was watching the whole discussion from afar. The tension between the American and Japanese teams was increasing, with neither side willing to give in. The existence of these tombs that appeared out of nowhere was a mystery to the world. Teams from all over the planet were trying to discover the true meaning behind the relics they held. But while some sought knowledge, others saw only an opportunity to smuggle these treasures. From afar, Seo Joo-hyun watched the thieves with disdain. He had already decided that this relic would be his. Meanwhile, the other groups on site wondered why no one was doing anything, impatient with the delay. What they didn't know was that the protagonist was amused by their confusion, aware of something everyone else was ignoring. With a smile on his face, he decided it was time to act. Seo Joo-hyun approached a set of glowing runes on the ground, which had gone unnoticed by everyone else. He had found what he was looking for. The protagonist knew that relics like to present themselves enigmatically, as if they were the protagonists of a story. He focused, preparing himself for what was to come. Before him, a huge circle of glyphs revealed itself, containing information about the tomb's entrance and its traps, a puzzle that no one there could solve. But for Seo Joo-hyun, that wasn't a problem. He was able to decipher it. With a subtle gleam in his eyes, the young man activated his ability. A translucent screen appeared before him, revealing the secrets that the runes hid. Seo Joo-hyun analyzed the new abilities he acquired, satisfied with the result, but a little annoyed with the interface. With a gesture, he dismissed the screens, leaving the man next to him completely confused. Later, in an isolated canal under the veil of night, the stage was set. There stood the pillar, the ancient seal that guarded the entrance to the tomb. Everything was ready for the start of the ritual. Seo Joo-hyun approached, aware that it was time to act. With a confident smile, he drew his dagger, prepared to break the seal. Without hesitating, the young man plunged the blade into the center of the pillar. In the same instant, a column of light exploded towards the sky, tearing through the darkness. The runic seal shattered, releasing the power contained in the tomb. The intensity of the released energy surprised even the protagonist. He braced himself to withstand the wave of power emanating from the newly opened portal. The light was so intense that it could be seen from afar, announcing to everyone that something great had happened. In another part of the city, other teams of looters saw the signal and immediately understood what it meant. The news spread like wildfire. The entrance to the tomb was officially open, and the race for the relics had begun. Among the teams that saw the signal, a pair ran desperately to arrive first. The man tried to force his way through, alerting the authorities to the chaotic situation. With no time to lose, they sped towards the epicenter of the explosion. The woman approached the edge, but the light was so strong that it was impossible to see the bottom. To test the depth of the abyss, she then threw a stone and waited for the sound. The two waited in silence at the edge of the crack, listening attentively. The sound confirmed the man's suspicions, who smiled confidently. There was water down there, but in a sudden act, he pushed her into the crack without any warning. Meanwhile, inside, the protagonist who had opened the tomb was already exploring the place. He sensed the presence of intruders and realized that the other looters had followed him. With a smile, the young man found an ancient mechanism on the wall and decided to prepare a reception. The trap was activated, awaiting its pursuers. The fall was brutal. The man who had betrayed his partner emerged from the filthy water, coughing non-stop. Only the woman wasn't a victim. She was perfectly fine, holding a rope, and looked at her partner with disdain, criticizing his lack of planning. But their argument was suddenly interrupted. A strange sound echoed through the darkness, putting both looters on alert. The woman grabbed her partner, questioning him about the noise. The man confirmed her fear. Whatever it was getting closer. Out of nowhere, a gigantic mass of water surged, completely engulfing them. The man panicked, not understanding where it all came from. The current dragged them mercilessly, throwing them from side to side. The looter fought desperately to stay on the surface, swallowing water and losing strength. And the source of all that chaos watched from afar. A young man with a cold and determined look approached. He entered the cave, walking towards the water that flooded the place. The boy pulled out a dagger. He concluded that, for now, that would have to do. Without hesitation, the young man entered the water, causing a small wave. He positioned himself before the great underground lake, awaiting what would come next. And then, the creature revealed itself. A colossal serpent emerged from the depths, staring at the intruder. The creature seemed to assess the young man, as if it were about to ask a question. The serpent opened its mouth, but not to attack. Instead, it presented the boy with 2 daggers, one of gold and one of silver, starting a bizarre test. Seo Ju-haeon understood the game immediately, a test of honesty, but he already had other plans. The giant creature explained that the test was based on a famous folktale about a golden and a silver axe. 2 daggers were presented, one of gold and one of silver, a tempting offer for anyone. However, the protagonist decided that he would not follow the rules, stating that neither belonged to him. The unexpected answer seemed to intrigue the serpent. Then, the creature offered only the golden dagger, testing his honesty once again. Seo Ju-haeon knew that, if he gave the right answer, he would win not only his original weapon, but the 2 daggers as a bonus. But he wasn't interested in playing the relics game. He saw a different opportunity. With a plan in mind, the young man asked to check if the weapon was really his first. The serpent, bound by the rules of the test, allowed it. He approached calmly, reaching out towards the creature's open mouth. His hand landed firmly on the dagger's hilt, and in an instant, he snatched it and plunged it into the serpent's head. The creature recoiled in agony, shocked by the human's audacity. Seo Ju-haeon, however, knew exactly what he was doing. He never trusted relics. The protagonist then faced the wounded creature, explaining that he already knew the truth behind that cursed test. The serpent then revealed its true intention, to transform its master into a psychopathic killer. History repeated itself. The former owner of that same relic had also become a mass murderer, taking countless lives. Seo Ju-haeon exposed the creature's plan. It intended to reward him with a false and cursed relic. Without hesitation, the protagonist took a step forward, ready for action. And then, he advanced. In a quick movement, the young man jumped onto the giant serpent. His determination was unwavering. He would make that relic pay for its actions. The creature couldn't believe the audacity of that human. Seo Ju-haeon began to explain how things should work. Normally, an adventurer overcame a tomb full of traps, and, upon passing the test, was rewarded with the relic and its powers, becoming someone revered. Only there was a dark detail. By nature, relics hated humans, and their true purpose was only to cause suffering. That was yet another reason why he had been exploited by CEO Kwon in the past. But he wouldn't be a victim anymore. With all his strength, the young man plunged the dagger even deeper into the creature. The pain was immense, but his will was greater. He would endure whatever it took. The serpent thrashed in fury, ordering the human to stop immediately. But Seo Ju-hyun was not intimidated. With a defiant smile, he decided that he would force the relic into submission, no matter how much it resisted. With a final effort, he forced the dagger in, determined to subdue the relic once and for all. The story then explained the danger of relics. Without the right talent, a user could be dominated by them, leading to disasters. The first of the 3 talents was sociability, the ability to form a healthy and friendly relationship with the relic. The second was dominance, the power to demand obedience from the relic through charisma and brute force. And lastly, there was compatibility, a natural and powerful affinity between the user and the relic, as if they were made for each other. It was explained that most people focused on increasing sociability, as it was the easiest way to extract the benefits of a relic. However, this path had a brutal price. When relics became friendly, they released poisonous auras that sickened their owners. And that was why, this time, the protagonist refused to use sociability. He would force the relic to submit to him. His determination was absolute. If the relic didn't submit willingly, he would break it into pieces without hesitation. The relic, the serpent, couldn't believe the audacity of that human. Suddenly, a wave of power emanated from the relic, repelling the protagonist. The creature's energy began to transform, enveloping everything around it. And then, the process was complete. The submission was a success, and the relic had changed its form. Seo Ju-hyun watched the notification that appeared. His bold action had paid off. He unlocked a new title and, with it, a new basic skill: tomb excavation. He was satisfied with the new skill, but the system had one more surprise for him. A new notification appeared on his screen. The system presented him with a somewhat peculiar title: Relic Abuser. His dominance talent increased, but his ability to socialize with items was classified as coercive. The protagonist was outraged by the new title. He couldn't understand how his actions were considered abusive, but he put the frustration aside. There was something more important. He had finally found the lake. Except he wasn't alone. Other looters had arrived at the location, much faster than he expected. The leader of the group tried to use an item to summon the relic from the lake. Without hesitation, the man threw the vial into the water, leaving his companion confused by the sudden action. Hidden, the protagonist watched the scene with a smile. He knew that wasn't going to work. For now, he decided to just observe to understand what that group was planning. But he remained ready for combat. The young man pondered whether he should eliminate them now or wait for the right moment. He then inspected the weapon he had recovered. It was an Egyptian funeral knife, a consumable relic, and most importantly, he realized that half of its uses had already been spent. That limitation didn't worry him. On the contrary, he understood it as a message from the Raven for him to use his head and act intelligently. The man panicked. The prophecy he was following seemed to have failed, as there was no response at all. His companion listened attentively, visibly worried about the situation. He concluded that the silence meant only one thing. More people knew about the relics. The woman realized that someone must have arrived before them. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed through the cave, interrupting the two's conversation. Hidden in the shadows, Seo Ju-hyun watched them with a smirk, finding it all too easy. He grabbed one of his relics, preparing to act. With an intense flash, the young man created a distraction for the explorers. The burst of light destabilized the area, causing the two to lose their balance. Desperate, they tried to run for the exit, but realized the path had been blocked. Far from all the confusion, Seo Ju-hyun was already outside, calmly exiting through a passage. He didn't seem at all worried about the fate of the looters he left behind. Upon returning to his building, the protagonist saw that the tomb covering it had completely disappeared. The residents, who were previously panicking, now looked at the sky, confused by what had happened. In the middle of the crowd, an acquaintance spotted him and called his name. After the incident, Seo Ju-heon acted as if nothing had happened, saying goodbye to his acquaintances to go eat. Far away, a man received a call with shocking news. There was another prophecy. Someone in Korea would get the relic before them. He exploded in fury, questioning why such crucial information was omitted. The news blinded him with rage. His whole body trembled with the frustration of that mistake. The man couldn't accept the failure, demanding to know how their scholars were unable to read the prophecy. On the other end of the line, the person tried to assure him that the incident that night would not be repeated, but the answer only made him angrier. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the chaos he caused, Seo Ju-heon was back in his room. He was focused on his research on the computer. The young man typed quickly, searching for any information he could find. His friend, looking over his shoulder, was impressed, asking if he could really understand what was on the screen. Ju-heon turned, confirming that he could. The protagonist then changed the subject, asking his friend if he had heard anything about the TKBM Corporation. The friend seemed surprised by the question, but mentioned that he knew something about the CEO of that company. The friend was embarrassed, not understanding why Ju-heon needed that information. Suddenly, the protagonist announced that he was quitting. The news caught the friend by surprise, who didn't understand anything. While his colleague was trying to process the situation, Ju-heon was already focused on something else, a memory about Park Kyung-ju's group and an art gallery. Following this clue, the protagonist went to the location. Inside, the scene was chaotic. Park Kyung-ju's group was in despair. With the boss's sister in jail, their business had gone down the drain, leaving everyone unemployed. The group leader, furious, blamed Seo Ju-heon for the whole situation and decided he needed to get revenge. His words inflamed the other members, who quickly agreed to seek retaliation. The leader felt confident, satisfied with the loyalty of his men. But, in the middle of the speech, something interrupted the moment. One of his men warned him that he was receiving a call. To everyone's astonishment, the name on the screen was precisely that of the person they wanted to hunt, Seo Ju-heon. The group panicked at the protagonist's audacity and insisted that the boss answer the call. With his heart in his throat, the leader answered the phone, not knowing what to expect. On the other end of the line, Ju-heon's voice sounded, questioning why it took so long to answer. The call started with immediate fury from the other end of the line. The man exploded with accusations, blaming Ju-heon for sending his superiors to jail. But Ju-heon remained completely calm, and with a smirk, asked a simple question about their business. The group leader continued his rant, explaining that because of Ju-heon, everything was lost. Desperate, he asked what the protagonist wanted. Seeing his opportunity, Ju-heon revealed that he had a task for them, since the company hadn't officially closed yet. He then instructed them to go to the largest secret auction house in the world, located in Las Vegas, a place known as Midas, famous for trading the most powerful and rare relics that existed. With the plan in mind, Ju-heon began to detail the mission they would have to fulfill. The goal was to find a specific person at the auction, a man who used the pseudonym Jack Kamen. Ju-heon finalized the instructions with a cold threat, making it clear that any failure or betrayal would have fatal consequences. The man protested, arguing that the mission was impossible without the connections his jailed boss possessed. Ju-heon, however, didn't care about the excuses. He then turned the order into a business proposal, offering payment in exchange for quality information. The refusal on the other end of the line was immediate and full of anger, but that only tested Ju-heon's patience. The protagonist then stated that their opinion didn't matter. One way or another, they were going to the auction. At that moment, dread took over the man, who finally understood the truth behind that call. It wasn't a proposal. After resolving the matter over the phone, Ju Hyun looked visibly pleased with the result. With his plans underway, he prepared to leave. The young man decided it was time to hunt for relics again that night. Night fell over the city. His destination led him to a convenience store. Inside, the nightly routine was running its normal course, until a news report on TV caught his attention, reporting a disturbing incident. Ju Hyun immediately wondered if this was a sign of a new tomb appearing, but he also considered that it could just be a coincidence. Suddenly, an angry voice snapped him out of his thoughts, complaining that he was blocking the way. A man confronted him aggressively, ranting in a foreign language. Ju Hyun, however, remained impassive in the face of the rudeness. The man continued to shout, demanding that he get out of the way. It was then that a smirk appeared on Ju Hyun's face. The aggressor was shocked to realize that the young man not only understood him, but was also Japanese. The aggressor tried to apologize, visibly embarrassed. He explained that he had a rough day and assumed Ju Hyun was also Japanese. But Ju Hyun replied in Korean, leaving the man completely shocked. The man couldn't believe what he heard. He realized that Ju Hyun was Korean from the start and was messing with him. With a mocking air, Ju Hyun tossed a can in the air and blamed the man for starting the mess. The taunt infuriated the aggressor. The argument was interrupted by the cashier, who stated the purchase amount. But the man was still seething with anger. It was then that the man's gaze changed. He sensed the presence of something powerful coming from Ju Hyun. A relic. Completely ignoring the shouts, the protagonist grabbed his drink and turned to leave. The aggressor didn't accept being ignored. He grabbed Ju Hyun's shoulder, trying to force him to listen. Only, at the same instant, the can opened and the liquid flew straight into the man's face. Completely soaked, the man could barely react. Ju Hyun, with a not-so-innocent smile, pretended it was an accident. He kept up the act, patting the man, who was now complaining about his dirty clothes. But, amidst the confusion, Ju Hyun's hand discreetly found the assailant's pocket. His amused expression vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating look. To make matters worse, Ju Hyun even scoffed, saying the clothes didn't even look that expensive. The comment left the man speechless, completely baffled by the young man's audacity. With a wry smile, Ju Hyun returned the ID he had taken, along with a small warning. The assailant tried to grab the object back, but Ju Hyun stopped him with a simple gesture, maintaining total control of the situation. The man was left speechless, clearly irritated and suspicious of the young man's attitude. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the place, catching everyone by surprise. Panic set in as people fell and screamed, not understanding what was happening. But amidst the chaos, Ju Hyun seemed to be the only one who wasn't surprised. He knew exactly what was coming next. The assailant also smiled, recognizing the event as part of a prophecy. Meanwhile, the protagonist took advantage of the distraction to move away. He immediately picked up the phone to inform someone that the great event had begun. Only the person on the other end of the line had some unexpected and alarming information. The voice on the phone continued, mentioning a strange detail of the prophecy. To be careful with alcohol. In that instant, it clicked. The man put the pieces together and understood the warning too late. Outside, the disorder continued, with people running desperately through the street. He looked in the direction Ju Hyun had gone, still trying to process the revelation. Dread took over his expression as he understood the gravity of his mistake. He remembered the encounter with the young man and the alcohol he had thrown in his face. The prophecy wasn't a metaphor. The detective ran down the street, furious on the phone. He finally had a lead on who was responsible for all this mess. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, he stopped. Something, or rather someone, caught his attention. Meanwhile, Ju Hyun remained calm, analyzing the situation. he felt a sinister and familiar aura forming in the area. The young man realized that this was the work of a relic, and it seemed to be much more dangerous than the previous one. It was then that a voice called him. Ju Heian looked back with a slight smile, as if he was already expecting it. Desperate, the detective pulled out his gun and pointed it directly at the young man. He recognized him from the previous encounter and, believing that the backpack contained the cause of everything, ordered Ju Heian to open it. The man's fury was total, but the young man didn't seem intimidated at all. At that moment, a strange energy began to envelop Ju Heian, leaving the detective completely shocked by what he saw. A warning message appeared in the air, alerting about an intense aura that was approaching rapidly. And then, everything was consumed by a blinding light. Ju Heian was caught in the explosion of energy that took over the place. A pillar of light rose to the heavens, marking the location of the incident for the whole city to see. When the light finally dissipated, the scene was no longer the street. They had been transported to a deadly place, surrounded by traps and thorns on all sides. Ju Heian felt a throbbing headache, completely disoriented after being transported to that strange place. But the confusion passed quickly. He soon understood that the relic had pulled them there with the intention of hurting them. Suddenly, a memory hit him. He had been in that place before, in his past life. He remembered the story behind those blades, forged by a legendary Japanese blacksmith. And he also remembered the legend that said the swords were cursed, bringing misfortune and death wherever they went. Because of that curse, the destruction of all the blades from that blacksmith was ordered a long time ago. Ju Heian understood now. The relic harbored a deep hatred for humans, and the danger wasn't just a legend. The system alerted him that the relic's aura was already penetrating his body, causing damage. He felt the evil energy hit him head-on. Strange marks began to appear on his skin. He realized that he needed to act quickly to clear the tomb before it was too late. But as he prepared to act, someone grabbed him from behind, ordering him to stay still. The man threatened him with a weapon, demanding that he hand over all his belongings. Despite the gun pointed at him, Ju Heian didn't seem intimidated at all, questioning why he should obey. The looter found the young man's attitude amusing, but threatened him, making it clear that he wasn't kidding. With a defiant smile, Ju Heian provoked him, telling him to shoot if he had the guts. The looter was incredulous at Ju Heian's audacity. Losing patience, the man threatened to shoot to force cooperation, but the young man remained impassive. Only when he tried to pull the trigger, the gun simply exploded in his hand. While the looter groaned in pain, Ju Heian just confirmed that he was already expecting that. The protagonist then explained the rule of that place. Modern weapons were useless inside a tomb. The man could hardly believe what he was hearing, starting to understand the gravity of the situation. Suddenly, Ju Heian grabbed him tightly, catching him completely by surprise. The young man declared that the relic was his and demanded that the looter get out of his way. The man still tried to resist, shocked by the turnaround. Without hesitation, Ju Heian threw him away with a single blow. The looter fell straight into a trap, and strange creatures emerged from the ground, grabbing him in desperation. Ju Heian just smiled, revealing that he knew about the trap all along. As the protagonist walked away, the man begged for help, already being dragged by the creatures. The looter struggled to break free, but the monsters held him with relentless force. The other members of the group watched the scene with horror and confusion, not understanding what was happening. Desperate, the looter begged for help, stating that he had some knowledge that could be useful to get them out of there. Hesitation took over the group. Some feared that the man was too dangerous, while others argued that they couldn't just abandon him to his fate. The man tried to force a smile, trying to look trustworthy to convince them. To prove his worth, He identified himself as a member of a Japanese excavation team, claiming to have the necessary training to get everyone out of there safely. The proposal left the group at an impasse, uncertain whether they should trust the stranger. But as they debated, another person approached. It was Ju Hyun who had returned. With a satisfied smile, he decided to check the relics that the looter was carrying. He remembered the moment he subdued the man. With a quick movement, Ju Hyun not only disarmed him, but also took the opportunity to grab the items in his pockets, criticizing the opponent's recklessness. In his hands were the spoils, a rope bracelet, and a small case. Ju Hyun recognized the origin of the relic. It was an item from a famous Korean folktale, the story of the brother and sister who became the sun and the moon. The story told of siblings who, to escape a tiger, were saved by a rope that descended from the heavens. Although it wasn't a top-tier item, the relic was still useful. For now, Ju Hyun decided to store it in his inventory. When storing the items, something unexpected happened. He realized that he had acquired a new skill, thus completing his 4 basic skills. The new skill, Nimble Fingers, joined his other skills of espionage, linguistics, and tomb excavation. But then, a new system window appeared, catching him completely by surprise. A system notification confirmed it. The mission was complete. He had awakened his 4 dormant skills, officially becoming a tomb raider. Ju Hyun smirked, annoyed. He realized the crow was treating him like a simple video game character. However, he decided not to care. After all, as long as he received his reward, nothing else mattered. Suddenly, a distant scream broke the silence and caught his attention. He approached the edge of a pit from where the cries for help were coming. Ju Hyun confirmed that the noise was coming from below. His eyes narrowed as he analyzed the situation. Down below, a crowd of people were trapped in a pit, screaming in panic. It was a trap. Amidst the chaos, a young woman attacked the others with a knife, driven by a dark force. The marks on her face and her lifeless eyes left no doubt. She was possessed. Ju Hyun watched the scene, understanding the nature of what was happening. The trap was cruel. The souls of those who died there rose to attack the survivors. He finally understood the macabre purpose of that place. It was a sacrifice trap. From the bottom of the pit, one of the men looked up and saw him, beginning to explain the situation. The man said, desperately, that they were betrayed by someone they had helped moments before. Ju Hyun understood the situation. The betrayal had a clear purpose: to protect a secret. Without hesitation, he decided to intervene. The young man descended the dangerous slope, dodging the blades sprouting from the ground. He prepared the small dagger he was carrying. With a quick movement, Ju Hyun repelled the trap's blades that were activated against him. He landed right in front of the civilians, placing himself as a shield between them and the threat. The interference enraged the possessed girl, who immediately advanced to attack him. But Ju Hyun already had another relic in his hands. He launched the artifact, a braided rope, and gave her a direct order. The rope moved on its own, wrapping around and immobilizing the girl instantly. With the threat contained, he approached, calmly. Ju Hyun then drew a new weapon he had obtained. Suddenly, a sinister voice emanated from the sword, trying to give a terrible order to its new master. The young man felt the influence of the cursed relic trying to dominate him, but he just analyzed the item coldly. It was just a low-level, degradable relic. With the sword issue resolved, Ju Hyun turned his attention to the rope relic. The relic obeyed, immobilizing the possessed young woman. Even tied up, the entity inside her made a sinister invitation. With a simple command, he ordered the relic to return to his hand. The demonstration of power left the other survivors completely stunned. Meanwhile, in another part of the tomb, laughter echoed through a graveyard of blades. The looter boasted of his success. He believed he had gotten rid of the witnesses and found the room of the legendary Muramasa. All he had to do was retrieve the sword and then take care of the Korean who was in his way. With victory within his reach, the man reached out to claim his prize. Only, instead of a sword, something small and metallic fell to the ground. The looter's euphoria turned to fury. He realized that all the swords there were just cheap imitations. Suddenly, a noise made him turn around. He wasn't alone. The witnesses he thought he'd eliminated were right there, and they didn't look happy at all. Without hesitation, the group rushed the looter, grabbing him violently. The situation completely reversed. The hunter became the hunted, being beaten mercilessly. And amidst the chaos, a new figure calmly approached the scene. While the looter was down and defeated, the approaching figure revealed his identity. It was Ju-hyun. With a mocking smile, he scoffed at the group's incompetence, who couldn't find the relic even though they arrived first. He then raised a golden axe, the supposed relic everyone was looking for. But that was just a distraction. Ju-hyun revealed that the real treasure, the legendary Muramasa, was embedded in the ground the whole time right under their noses. The sword looked like just a broken and useless blade. However, Ju-hyun knew that its true form would only be revealed when activated. He grabbed it, and a powerful energy began to emanate from the relic. The looter didn't understand anything, but the other civilians panicked when they heard the sword's voice. The relic demanded a sacrifice, the blood of 10 humans to restore its power. Ju-hyun, however, showed no fear. He faced the situation coldly, as if he already expected it. The voice of the Muramasa echoed, giving him a direct order. Kill 10 humans to serve it! But Ju-hyun had no intention of obeying. Instead of submitting, he decided he would dominate the relic. The sword reacted violently, releasing an overwhelming energy that made him scream in pain. While the others watched in horror, Ju-hyun resisted. He made it clear to the Muramasa that the roles were reversed. He wasn't the one being tested, and if the sword didn't submit, he would tear it to pieces. The pain was unbearable, but Ju-hyun didn't give in. The relic fought against his will with all its might. The cursed blade resisted, pouring its fury upon him. The Muramasa raged, outraged by the audacity of that human. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a different relic awakened. Sometime later, Ju-hyun offered an escape route for the tomb survivors. People started to leave one by one, but suddenly, Ju-hyun stopped one of the men from following the crowd. The man was terrified when he realized he had been discovered. Desperate, he begged Ju-hyun to let him go, promising he wouldn't cause trouble. Seeing that pleading didn't work, the man tried a new tactic: negotiation. To save himself, he revealed the existence of a prophetic relic, the guide to the future, trying to pique the young man's interest. Ju-hyun's reaction was not what he expected, leaving the man speechless. He continued, explaining that there was an entire team dedicated to operating that relic. Ju-hyun listened patiently, but he had his own conditions. The man flashed a victorious smile, believing his plan had worked and that he was safe. The man, hanging on for dear life, changed his strategy. He apologized and tried to form an alliance, offering a place on his team. Ju-hyun, however, had other plans. He revealed his true interest. He wanted information about the Japanese team that operated the prophetic relic. The man below smiled in relief, believing his bargain had worked. But Ju-hyun's gaze remained cold and calculating. His intention was sharp and deadly. With the decision made, he tightened his grip on the rope. In a sudden movement, Ju-hyun used the end of the rope like a whip, violently striking the man's face, and with a precise kick, he hurled him into the darkness of the abyss. Fallen and defeated, the man heard Ju-hyun's words of contempt, sarcastically thanking him for the information he delivered out of desperation. Terror took over the looter as he realized he had been deceived. In his final moments, he questioned the cruelty of his tormentor, unable to believe that he would be left to die in that way. Far away, night was falling over the city. Elsewhere, a young man was preparing to drink water, seeming to ponder something, but inside, the calm was a facade. Shouts of fury and frustration echoed in his mind. A violent memory surfaced, a moment of confrontation and pure rage. The talking sword was once again testing the protagonist's patience. Without much tact, he found a way to silence the noisy relic, but the sword didn't like the humiliation and retaliated with a wave of pain. The young man stepped away, feeling the consequences of his actions. He looked at his own arm, marked by the price of forcibly dominating relics. A memory reminded him that trying to subdue these items was a brutal process. The stronger the relic, the more it resisted, slowly destroying the user's body. Even knowing the risks, he felt he had no other choice. Suddenly, a system notification appeared before him. The boy looked at the screen, intrigued by what this could mean. The system then presented him with a choice: the path of domination or the path of sociability. The protagonist didn't understand the reason for this sudden choice, questioning if it was some kind of test. But the state of his arm wouldn't make him back down. His decision had already been made. Without hesitation, he chose the path of domination. The choice was made. However, nothing happened, leaving the young man confused. He expected some kind of reward for his choice, but to his frustration, nothing appeared. It was then that he felt something in his pocket. It was a small silver pill. The system identified it as a consumable relic, food type. The young man pondered for a moment, suspicious of the mysterious item, but he came to a conclusion. In his situation, there wasn't much to lose, and with that decision, he swallowed it. While waiting for the effect, he dealt with the talking sword, which was complaining about being stuffed in the toilet. Suddenly, a shock ran through his body. The pain was so intense that he dropped the sword on the floor. The relic's effect began to manifest violently. He looked at his arm and saw the marks of domination disappear under a healing light. He realized it was a healing relic. A smile of relief appeared on his face. After all, healing relics were extremely rare, but the surprise didn't stop there. A new system notification appeared before him. The pill was actually poisonous. He had resisted it, and in doing so, discovered a new skill: tolerance. It was the first time he'd seen something like that. The young man pondered the potential of this new and unprecedented ability. Meanwhile, in another district, a disaster of gigantic proportions had occurred. The rescued survivors told terrifying stories about deadly traps inside the collapsed structure. One of them, in particular, gave a shocking testimony, claiming that someone from the Japanese excavation team was trying to attack them. The news spread like wildfire, quickly becoming a diplomatic incident involving China and Russia. The news continued, mentioning the American government's position until someone decided they had seen enough. In the boardroom of the Japanese excavation team, the tension was at its peak. Government officials demanded an immediate explanation. One of them exploded, furious at the disgrace the incident brought to the nation. The person in charge of the operation bowed in apology, taking the blame for the scandal and the death of his subordinate. But then, Mori Hiroyuki, the team leader, revealed the real reason for the problem. The Korean from the prophecy had appeared. The officials became even more irritated, reminding Mori that he had promised to personally take care of that situation. Mori, however, calmly explained that it was all part of the plan. To track the target with the guiding relic, a first contact was necessary, and that contact, he confirmed, had already been made. Even if incompletely, now they could locate the Koreans' position. He even tried to reassure them, mentioning the large investment that the TKBM group was making to complete the research. Faced with the explanation, The officials decided to give him another chance, and Mori promised that he would do whatever it took. Mori's group had a clear objective: eliminate the Korean at any cost. Meanwhile, the protagonist, completely unaware of the threat, reflected on the new ability he had just acquired. He remembered the difficulties that all relic users faced in his past life because of the side effects. The ability to tolerate relic poison was a unique power, available only to him, and all thanks to the Raven's relic. This made him question the entity's true intentions. He wondered what the plan was behind that power. His thoughts were interrupted by a call from his subordinates. He answered jokingly, but the news he received on the other end of the line changed his expression instantly. In Las Vegas, his informant reported that he had checked the guest list for an auction event. The protagonist listened carefully as the man confirmed that he had found 3 people with the name he was looking for. Faced with the uncertainty, he decided that he needed to go there and resolve the matter personally. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. Someone had marked him with an S-rank relic and was reading his future, which made him slightly annoyed. He understood what was happening right away. With a confident smile, he returned to the call and warned that he was on his way, but that he needed to make a stop first. The place in question held the Prince Shotoku's Guide to the Future, a powerful relic with the power of prophecy. It was one of the first relics to integrate into human society, an item of immense value and importance. And so the relic known as Guide to the Future appeared in someone's life. The young student Sasaki Yuka found the book without any idea of what she had in her hands. The relic had chosen her as its new owner. From that moment on, the book began to follow her everywhere. No matter what she did, the object always reappeared, which terrified Sasaki. Desperate, she finally told her father about the mysterious guide to the future. With the help of the guide, Sasaki's family overcame difficulties and became rich, using the relic's power to help Japanese excavation teams. The girl's father explained that only she, the chosen owner, could read what was written in the book, but the visions that the guide showed were terrible. Back to the present, the story unfolded at the international airport. The protagonist arrived, determined to interrupt their plans. Sasaki's story, however, began long before, when she was just a child. At that time, she was an ordinary girl, watching her favorite singer on television. While she was having fun, her father interrupted her, saying it was time to read The Guide to the Future. He seemed impatient, pressuring the young girl to fulfill her duty. Sasaki defended herself from her colleagues' teasing. She insisted that, even though it was the 4th time, she still enjoyed doing it. The young woman then prepared to read The Guide to the Future once again. But suddenly, something she saw left her speechless. Her reaction alarmed her colleagues who didn't understand what was happening. In a panic, Sasaki revealed the terrible prophecy. The guide said she was going to die. The book reacted, glowing with the same message over and over. Despair took over the young woman, who couldn't process the situation. Her companions tried to calm her down, reminding her of her power and asking her to look again. Despite her fear, Sasaki decided to gather courage to try one more time. She activated her ability, focusing all her concentration. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man was landing at the airport. Apparently, he was the target that the Guide to the Future couldn't track properly. At the same time, a military unit was receiving orders to begin their first move. Far from all this tension, someone was preparing for a meal. The man seemed completely oblivious to the events that were about to happen, but he wasn't oblivious at all. In fact, the protagonist wondered why his enemies were taking so long to attack. He had a plan in mind and was enjoying the wait. Suddenly, a noise outside caught his attention. He focused, confirming that the time had finally come. On the other side of the door, the group leader told his men to be quiet. They were preparing to invade, but the fear was visible. One of them was already begging for forgiveness before even starting. The centerpiece of their plan was a young woman who didn't seem to agree much with the situation. The chef tried to convince her, explaining what she needed to do. The goal was simple. She just needed to make eye contact with the target for their mission to be completed. Despite her fear, the girl was coerced into accepting the task. With a gun pointed, the men forced her into the room. Resigned, the young woman prepared for what was to come. Only, upon entering, it was the target who spoke first with a smile on his face. He turned around, revealing his appearance to the girl. Her reaction, however, was not one of fear or determination. She was completely enchanted. The young woman then served a plate of sushi to the target. He watched the scene with a smile, enjoying the unexpected twist. The protagonist thanked her with a calmness that disarmed the girl, and his simple thank you was enough to leave her even more enchanted. But what the surveillance team saw was a sudden movement towards a weapon. Panic swept through the control room. They believed the girl's life was in danger. The group leader didn't understand what was happening. The young woman should have backed off as soon as she made eye contact. Their plan had completely failed, and no one knew why. To everyone's surprise, the girl simply closed the door, locking herself in with the target. And then, with a radiant smile, she made a completely unexpected request. That caught even the protagonist by surprise. He had no idea what was going on. The young woman then seemed to remember something, commenting that he wasn't a celebrity after all. In the surveillance room, the team was on the verge of a nervous breakdown with how things were unfolding. The situation, which should have been high tension, turned into a bizarre encounter. Realizing there might be a language barrier, the girl quickly looked for a way to communicate. The protagonist looked at the cell phone screen, completely confused by the girl's request. She, on the other hand, awaited the response with great anticipation. He thought for a moment and decided that, despite the bizarre situation, this could be a good opportunity. Then, he typed his response and showed the cell phone to the young woman. Her reaction was one of pure happiness. Meanwhile, outside, the surveillance team was preparing to act, unaware of what was happening inside. Suddenly, the door was broken down with absurd force, throwing one of the men away. Before they could understand what happened, something caught their attention from above. In an instant, a rope-like object attacked them at high speed. In seconds, the guard was already on the ground, tied up and gagged. The one responsible was the protagonist, who revealed that he already knew they would try something. With the guards neutralized, he reassured the girl and invited her to the date. Little did he know that the real problems were yet to come.